So I've been thinking a lot about that behavior discipline um, thing that we started talking about today. And I really like the chapters we read, even though I'm not quite sure how they'd play out in my classroom, but I'll definitely be going back to the book some more. And I liked how the other reading that we had outside of the book was very focused on emphasizing the importance of recognizing that your students' misbehaviors in class can be due to a multitude of things. Um, and I think that's why it's really important to get to know your kid, like get to know your students, know what's going on in their lives, because if they haven't been sleeping well, they're they might be snappy or kind of defiant. If there are just so many different reasons for this misbehavior, and it connects back to what Andre said from our guest speakers today, where he said that the kid who's the loudest and most disruptive is probably the kid who's crying out for help the most. And I thought that was a powerful statement, and I'd heard people say it before, but I think it took me until this year to really understand what that meant. Um, and I've been thinking about the restorative justice thing, and I think it's something I really would love to incorporate into my teaching practices, um, because I'll be working with predominantly seniors in the upcoming year, and I want to provide them some kind of a say in the classroom norms, of what they expect of themselves, of what they expect of their peers, of what they expect of me. And I liked that aspect of restorative justice, where students come up with their own consequences for actions or inactions. And so I think that can definitely be something I incorporate. Um, and it just made me connect to a dinner that Makendra and I went to, being the Delta Kappa Gamma Women's Educational Society scholarship winners this year. We were invited to go to one of their meetings, and so at this meeting that we attended to say hi and thank you, um, the principal of the school at Zeb Pike and four of her students came to talk about restorative justice and what school is like for them, being in the juvenile corrections center. Um, and I thought it was really powerful. And some of the kids that I got to meet with, or I got to hear their stories at this dinner, actually worked on that mural that they showed us today from the Youth Transformation Center. So that was pretty cool, those connections. And I just think it's powerful to give students some options in crafting their own kind of consequences. Um, and I think having my upperclassmen definitely helping to contribute to owning that learning community and really buying into the fact that I'm creating a community and I'm not going to be the dictator, because I'm not comfortable in that position at all. I'm much more of a learner with them and a facilitator of their learning. So I don't. I really liked that connection that I was able to draw today, of having that experience of knowing a little bit more in depth about Zeb Pike, and then having them, the Youth Transformation Center, talking about restorative justice in particular. Um, I just need to do some more research, I think, to really get to that understanding of how I can use it in my classroom if it's not quite a school-wide policy, because I don't know quite what the discipline policy is at my school I'll be working at next year. And it got me thinking about a situation I had with a student earlier this, during the second semester. He was transferred into my class at semester because he had been a behavior problem for another teacher and no one else wanted him. And he and I struggled a lot, and I tried everything in my wheelhouse, from calling his, like, contacting his mom and asking, like, if there was anything new going on in his life at home that that could be talking about this, or if she had any insight into what kind of gets through to him, and using those questioning techniques, trying to get to the root of the behavior problem, because I've recognized that the misbehavior has, like, it's something else is going on generally. And so I was trying to get to the bottom of it by talking to him, asking him questions, not calling him out in class, but having conversations with him after class. And no matter what I had done, he just was defiant and disrespectful, and I reached my final straw, and we had talked about this being a consequence for repeated actions, and he had a warning that it was, if he continued on the path he was going of completely derailing class, I'd have to involve the dean. And so it got to the point where I did have to send him down to the office, called the dean ahead and said, hey, this kid's coming down, only to find out he skipped out on the dean and chose to go to lunch early, and then was suspended for 2 days because of that. And then he didn't show back up to my class, even though I had seen him in the hallway and said hello and tried to welcome him back, and he just wouldn't come back to my class, and ended up continuing to ditch my class, and then enrolling in an online English class, because my class was not the only class he was failing at that point. And the whole situation didn't sit well with me when it was happening, and I didn't quite know what I could do as it was happening, and I know I didn't handle it the best way that I could, but I didn't have a lot of... I had a bit of support from my cooperating teacher, but my cooperating teacher's like, just send him to the office, get him out of the classroom. And there was something bigger going on, and I never quite got to it. And I still feel like it was one of those times where I gave up on a student, and I never want to feel like I've given up on a student. And I know I could have handled it better, and I think those restorative justice principles would definitely be helpful to have in my wheelhouse, but I don't know, that incident still makes me feel crummy, but I didn't know what else to do to get through to him and figure out what was going on at the time. So, I'm still learning, still thinking about it, but I think restorative justice would be something that would be good to incorporate into how I teach and my philosophy of teaching. So that's the brain, it just keeps going and going.